loves the Tales to Give You Goosebumps series. It is one of the most popular Goosebumps spin-offs. It has received a ton of love and has the most Goosebumps stories technically next to the OG series with a total of 60. So it almost beat the OG series in unique stories, if it just had one more book, sadly. And that's kind of what we're discussing here today. What if Tales to Give You Goosebumps didn't just end at 6? What if it went to, by my guess, since I'm going to do the same thing for triple header, if there's 10 stories per book, then there's probably going to be 10 books. That's my theory. So we're going to be predicting 4 today. If you haven't guessed it by now, this is my theory video for what if this series was not discontinued at a certain point in its lifespan. We have done this for the Give Yourself Goosebumps series and Series 2000, and I'll probably do it for triple header and maybe more series in the future, like the 2000s graphic series with those trilogies. I would have loved more of those, and I feel like we could have gotten more had they probably been more successful. I don't know if they did very well, but I don't find them in public very often. Maybe it's because people loved them or they just didn't sell well. I don't know. But yeah, this is my continuation of that series. And why not be for one of the technically longest series, not by page count, but by story count. And I figure it's a good time as ever because last year in November, I actually used my ranking for all detail stories. So pretty funny timing. Yeah, please enjoy this video. And this is all completely fun. It's just based off patterns and potentiality, and the pattern I'm actually going off is really just release schedule, because for the last 4 books, I believe, they all came out in either summer or very late months of the year. So yeah, sit back, grab some popcorn, we're gonna have some fun. Maybe leave your own theories down below for what we could have gotten. We're gonna be discussing covers, titles, what they could about release, and maybe some story ideas, so buckle up. So what would have come out after book 6? Well, going off the pattern, it would have been a summer story, and I predict it would have come out in July of 1998. And it would have been titled Many More Tales to Give You Goosebumps. Really, there's not a lot of titles left to do past more and more and more, but, you know, we're just gonna keep doing the thing they kept doing, even more, still more. We're gonna kind of carry off on that. And yeah, Many More Tales to Give You Goosebumps, that's my title for book 7. And this one is a summer-themed one, because it came out during summer, or would have come out during summer by my theory. And the cover for this one, I'm not predicting schemes for colors, but the actual illustration that Jim Jacobus would have been commissioned to do, likely so, would have been Curly riding the waves on a surfboard, with Drool too, probably on his own, or maybe on Curly's, who knows. And there's actually an art piece done by Jim Jacobus here that kind of does look like what I particularly thought. Like, he can actually do this. He has done it before. Just put Curly there instead and you got a cover art. And obviously, just to add similarity to it, I think he could be actually reading a Goosebumps book while riding the waves, because I guess that's kind of cool. But yeah, just some nice, stupid, fun artwork. So as for the actual contents of the book, though, I actually have made, and there's my golden rule, I'm only doing 3 per, because if I made up 40 fucking titles, this video would not have been out for months. And trust me when I say, the tale story titles are never usually that deep. They're usually jokes or just funny lines that relate to the story. So here's my predictions. The first story I came up with was The Flight of Icarus. I know. If y'all know what I'm referring to, it is a reference to The Flight of Icarus. And I actually really like that story. I think this could be a funny, kind of similar to a very almost new Goosebumps book we're getting next year, What We Do at Night. And I think it could be about a bird boy legend. Maybe it's something about a kid who sneaks out at night to fly. Or something of the sort. I just think it could be cool. And I felt it fit the theme because in The Flight of Icarus, the sun in that book, I don't know if it was Icarus or not, it's been a minute, his wings get burnt up, and that's due to the very, very scorching hot sun. And he falls and dies drowning in the ocean. So it could be funny since it's summertime and it's usually sunny. I also came up with Surely You Jest. Pun on the word shore. It's an ocean joke. I came up with this one. Me. Because I'm a genius. This one's just a sea monster story. It could have something to do with the twist. Maybe it has a weakness of jokes. Not making up good stories, I'm just making up stories, I'm just saying. We also have Camp Creep, which is a very basic one, self-explanatory. It's just a camp story. That has nothing to do with calling out creeps, unless it might. There have been no official sequels to Tales stories or to books outside of Tales within the Tales series. So there's no sequels in there. So there will be no sequels in this video, sorry. Now this one would have come out later in 1998, particularly in November, as I have ballparked, because this is a more generally end of the year story. And the theme is, well, that. It's a bit of Halloween, it's a bit of mostly Thanksgiving, as I'll share of the cover art, and a bit of early Christmas, winter, and late fall, and all that stuff. So just generally all those late, near the end of the year vibes that you get. And this one's cover would have been very interesting. You would depict Curly slicing a turkey and Drool sitting at the table, because it's a whole table of Thanksgiving dinner, obviously. And Drool is doing what his name suggests. He is drooling like a madman. You could do so many things that Drool. You could do the Goosebumps G forming, whatever you want, make some jokes there. Maybe the turkey, or maybe the food in general, is monster associated. There's so many things you could do with that. But generally just a Thanksgiving dinner with Curly and Drool drooling, because food! Like, why? And the title would be A Few More Tales to Give You Goosebumps. I really am running out, because I clearly can tell that they were probably running out themselves. I mean, Jesus, more and more and more tales. My God. And to express the late, year theming, I decided to do a story about all 3 holidays near the end of the year. So one's about Halloween, and it's pretty simple. It's called Take One. It could be a story about taking more candy than you're supposed to, and it could maybe be about a curse or a candy monster or something of the sort. It could be fun, whatever. There's also a story in here about Thanksgiving, as the cover may suggest, called How I Survived Fangsgiving. I'm very creative, I know. I know! That was the highest of hanging fruits. And that one's self-explanatory. It's probably a Thanksgiving with maybe your relatives turn out to be monsters. Could be puberty allegory. Stine loves to do that every now and then. I don't blame him. It's a okay allegory. I don't mind it usually, unless it's How I Met My Monster. But there's great instances of World's First Night and all that. Anyways, there's also the third story, which is a almost Christmas story called The Holiday Spirit, which could be general, but mostly Christmas. And that one, take it as you will, it's probably just a Christmas ghost story. You could go many directions with it. I'm just trying to come up with titles really here. And yeah, that is my theory for book 8. Moving on to 1999, we have my book prediction for book 9. This one would have been very interesting. I mean, it's another summer one, obviously. This would have come out in June, going off the pattern we were establishing in the later portion of the Tales series, or back half, or so, whatever. This one would have been titled Way More Tales to Give You Goosebumps. Yeah, I know, I'm really scraping the bottom of the finest barrel of wine, except that barrel came from the dollar store. As for the cover of this one would be actually probably the most interesting to see Jacobus do, and I think it could either be in an arcade, or maybe just Curly sing at home. You never know. Yeah, I want it to be Curly, or what I would have liked it to be, Curly playing video games with Drool as his opponent or teammate or whatever, co-op game. I don't know if those existed back then, but either way, they each have a controller, maybe, or maybe they're in virtual reality. It really could be anything, or you could just be playing together. Maybe they have their own Game Boys or whatever. Either way, they could also pull a reference to some older games. Maybe they could be playing a Goosebumps game. You never know. It could be pretty goofy and pretty fun, whatever Jacobus decided to cook up for that artwork or he was commissioned. Whatever. Just something involving video games, because a lot of kids, lounge around during the summer playing video games. Still very relevant today. I know, because my brother does. As for the stories in this one, I almost made this one the cover because it sounded cool, having Curly barbecuing, but then I realized it sounds a little familiar. So, no, it's not the cover, but we have Barbecue Special, and I think this one could be a cannibal story. Straight up, yeah, just a cannibal story, or something of the sort. Maybe something really gross, and maybe it's a monster barbecue. It could be your friends, it could be your families. I don't know. It could be crazy stuff. We also have Early Screaming, which is a theater story. And, since movies and malls especially are a big thing during the summer, especially back then, since malls are a big thing during the summer, especially movies, this would have been, obviously, probably about a haunted theater, if anything, or a haunted film reel. You could even take some inspiration from the Zombie Town movie, or rather book at the time, that was coming out, probably for Series 2K, or Triple Letter, whatever. But no less, it could have been interesting. And then the final one's pretty basic. It is The Haunted Beach House. Well, play on words there, because it's, not the haunted house, it's the haunted beach house! Yeah. Pretty basic. And now for the 10th Tales to Give You Goosebumps story, I'm predicting that never happens, sadly. I thought of, what if we go back to Halloween? Because we've had multiple summer stories. We've almost had more Christmas stories going on my prediction here. Why not just do another Halloween one? We only had 2, and that's if you count book 1 of the original Tales series. Which I kind of know, since a lot of them barely are, or aren't. So this one would have been wholeheartedly Halloween, and would have just hopefully slapped. and this one would have been entitled Forevermore Tales to Give You Goosebumps, as a kind of send-off to the series. I think it's a pretty interesting title, and it just feels, pretty final. As for the cover art, well, obviously release is going to be October of 1999, so just about the end of Goosebumps' lifespan, alongside Full Moon Fever, so interesting. The cover art for this one would have been, I know, it's going to be weird, but Curly blending in with a bunch of fake Halloween skeleton decor. And I'll get to Jewel in a second. It could be in a convenience store, like he's hanging on a rack. It could be fucking goofy, hilarious even. It could be in a front yard. It could be in so many settings. I wanted to stand out more, make him, darker, more covered in grime, make him obviously a real skeleton. And for Jewel's role, sounds weird coming off my tongue, in this cover art, is he's chewing on Curly because Curly is made of real bones. Yeah, it's goofy, specifically Curly's leg. Yeah, because dogs like bones. But yeah, that's my little theory there for what we could have got for cover art. I actually think this is my favorite. Super funny. For the stories in this one, I have specifically designed one to be the 100th story. We'll get to that in a minute, though. We have Witch Candy, which is kind of based off Pumpkin Juice's title. It's taken that format, since a lot of the Goosebumps titles like to take the noun format kind of thing, or like kind of description, like werewolf skin, vampire breath, scream school, zombie school, and all that stuff. They're all very similar. Zombie town, for God's sakes. And that was even Goosebumps, but it almost was if Triple R Book 3 would have came out and I was right about my prediction there. But either way, there's a lot of books and titles that follow that title format in the Goosebumps franchise as a whole. And Tales no exception. I think would have fit there, and a nice send-off, because, it's pretty basic, but it gets the job done. And for what it could have been about me, it's witch candy. You probably just get candy from a witch, and it probably does some weird effects on you. Not some kinky stuff. Not some kinky stuff, but like, purses, and maybe it makes you grow a third eye. I don't know. There's also another story I thought of in here titled Trick or Treating After Midnight. I mean, there's some puns you could do there and make it sound better with the tongue more swell. I think this is basically just what it says. What happens if you trick or treat after midnight? I mean, it's no longer Halloween anymore. You've been out really late, but what happens if you decide to trick or treat even still? And it could go down many avenues. Maybe we could do something like The Wish from the more obviously Halloween-themed Tales book. It could do something like that. It could do something about a curse. It could go many avenues. Doesn't really matter. And this one, I already said it, this is specifically the 100th Tales story. So this would have been the final one of the book. And this would have marked, again, the 100th Tales story. So that's pretty big. And makes it technically the longest Goosebumps series just by story count. Or at least the most in volume, I guess. I don't fucking know. You get the idea. And this would have been titled House of 100 Screams. It's the best thing I could come up with, because it is a reference to House of 1,000 Corpses, and it's also a half reference to, I think the book was out by then, it should have been, or else that's really weird, House of 1,000 Screams from Ghosts of Fear Street, which is not a very good book. Don't rate it. Yes, because I read knockoffs. This is just a pretty doable thing. It could be a haunted house story, just a very basic story, but something hopefully really nice to go off on, something scary as shit too. Just really interesting title. That's all I could really think of. And I thought it worked. And, yeah, we're done. That is it. I think I've got everything I wanted to say done in this video. Tell me if I forgot some. But, yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this little just fucking around video. Having a little fun, making up some Tales books if we got more. Tell me what you think. Make up your own down below. Tell me what you think would have fit. Maybe we could have gotten different seasonal releases. Maybe something for the more beginning of the year, like maybe Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day, Easter. That would have been cool. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.